Welcome to Inside the Taubman Approach. I'm Benjamin Harding. Today we welcome the brilliant Ricky Moreira to the program. Let's dive into today's episode. Ricky Moreira, welcome to Inside the Taubman Approach.
Thank you for having me.
Ricky, how did you come to the Taubman work?
Yeah, it's kind of a big story, but I guess I'll get into it.
Yes, let's.
I actually did not study music for a long time. I studied music as a child and around 7 years old, so for some people kind of late, but it was on time for me. And I really didn't have a lot of teachers growing up. I had, my original teacher, and then I guess I didn't practice very much or something, but I ended up not having a teacher for a long time. And so a lot of what I did was very self-taught. I spent a lot of time alone, just learning the pieces I like to learn and just kind of, having fun with the instrument. And so I really didn't plan on pursuing it as a life career until much later on. I actually was wanting to study, psychology and wanting to be a therapist, and it was, completely different. So it was a big 180. I decided to do music, or I decided to try out music. I wasn't completely dead set on it, so I decided to try out music, and I started studying. Actually, I was born in New York, but I lived in Georgia in the South for a long time. And in the South, I went to go try to audition to a school, and it went well. So I thought, let me just keep trying. I love music. I love classical music, and I wanted to see how far this can go. And very quickly, I realized, or I felt like maybe this can't go very far. And it it was because I realized that there were like very obvious limitations with the things I wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
and the kind of answers that I thought, having enjoyed psychology a lot, I did a lot of reading, and you could always find some type of, in quotes, answer about something, and kind of like go say, okay, so this is what this is about. This is what this part of the brain, I don't know, But in this case, I would go to my first college teacher and I would ask her a few questions about technique or about expression or about certain things. And I just learned very quickly that most of the people that I met at that point didn't really have very concrete answers about those things. And, they didn't even really always know what they did at the piano. It was a big mystery. And it was just kind of like, well, have you practiced it enough? Or how many hours have you spent on it so far? Or, it was always a different thing. So I spent a long time researching myself as to see like what's out there about the piano, what's actually out there. The Alexander, the Feldenkrais. There's the older stuff of like, the Russian school and the history of all these different types of piano techniques. There's the French school too. I just got into all of it also because I just loved reading about that history. And then I found the Choreography of the Hand, which is this documentary about the Taubman Approach and Dorothy Taubman and Edna Golandsky on YouTube, which thank God YouTube is a thing, because otherwise I wouldn't have found all these things. Like, just such a great resource. And I watched that and I thought it was pretty amazing, some of the things they were doing, because, you'd sit there and be watching and then you try it yourself and you'd be like, oh, that was actually kind of nice. That that kind of works. And so anyway, basically I went to go search up to see if because this video is from, what was it, from the 90s, was it?
I believe so, 90s and even 80s maybe. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I thought, oh, maybe they're not doing this still. I don't know if this is still a thing. So I did some research and I found out that, completely to my surprise, they were doing a seminar in like 2 weeks' time in North Carolina, and it wasn't that far away from me. A lot of the things they do, it's based in New York, and because it just makes sense. A lot of things are going on there, and a lot of the teachers are there. They're based there, and so anyway, they were Edna was coming to North Carolina and was going to give a seminar, and I thought I have to go. I have to try it out, and I have to just see what happens. And so I I didn't tell my teacher at the time or anything. I just said, well, I'm gonna have a weekend off. I'm gonna go to North Carolina and this. But yeah, no, I went, and just, from the beginning, just amazing, the lessons she would give, and the talks that she would give. She's a very amazing, like, clear speaker, and just very, she clearly thinks a lot about the things she's going to say, and the way she plans to say those things is amazing. And I remember signing up for a lesson, and I signed up for in our lesson. I had brought my, Saint-Saëns concerto, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna bring her all the tough things, and let's just see what she says. And like a few minutes in, um, she put my concerto to the side, and she had me sit there, and then she asked me about my bench height, and that was, first of all, thing I had not even thought too much about. Um, and so that was, first of all, a big change. And then she had me just really feel what it was like to play one note on the piano, and just really feel what she calls unified, which is basically, just completely finger, hand, and form in one movement. And I think just that moment was a life changer. So yeah, I just graduated. I studied with Edna, and I just finished my bachelor's degree this past spring, and it's just been an amazing journey, and I plan to continue it.
That's fantastic. And what kinds of effects has it had on your playing and teaching now that you've graduated with your bachelor's? What's next for you, and sort of what effects has the Taubman approach had on your playing and teaching right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's really amazing. Like, my teaching really has become, yeah, it's gotten to a different level, because I feel like when I teach now, I just really have answers for the things that I'm talking about, and I can objectively tell somebody how to get to where they want to be, especially when, I have a lot of older students who come, and a lot of them have pain, and because they've maybe picked up the piano recently, and they they're getting into it, and they're spending a lot of time alone practicing, and maybe they're just realizing that, yeah, something is not right, because why am I feeling this pain? A lot of times they'll ask me, oh, is it just because I'm old? And I'm always happy to tell them that no, it really is not, because anything with age, it's actually just the way we're moving our body. And of course, people have um, different situations, and then they might have other injuries based on other parts of their life. But um, when it comes to the piano, there is no reason we should feel pain when we're getting to the piano. There's no reason that we I always remember this quote. I think it was in Choreography of the Hands, but Dorothy Taubman just saying something like, playing the piano should be delicious. It should feel delicious. And it's just true, that, that really is the best way to say it, because it should be that way. And if it's not, then there's a problem. We have to find the problem. But yeah, my teaching has been amazing. My playing has been completely changed. I mean, I recently watched a video from a recital I did when I had first started college, with a previous teacher. And I mean, I just don't know. It's really unrecognizable. Like, I don't know how some of the things I did would how I got away with it. I think it's just a lot of clearly inefficient things and things that I did because I just didn't know how else to play those things. I didn't know how else to express or to use the instrument to do what I wanted to do. So you would figure out different ways, and I think you see that in most concert pianists now, where it's like, you see all different types of approaches just to get basically the sound that they want in their head to that they wanted to come out and to deliver whatever it is that they're wanting to express. I mean, they'll do anything. They'll try anything, and it's it's not sustainable. It's just not sustainable. And so, yeah, really, really grateful that I came in contact with her. But for me now, I I'm looking forward to doing more teaching and to kind of following this um, teacher training program so that I can, be on one of those top, what do you call it? Robert Durso and Edna and
Yeah.
Mary Moran, these legendary figures of teaching, just to kind of be somewhere close there. And um, yeah, just um, be able to help people, because that's really what it is at the end of the day. I mean, yeah, a lot of people, they want to play with the things they've always wanted to play and they want to feel better. But of course, I always think that piano lessons extend beyond that, right? And they, um, a lot of the obstacles that people find at the piano, it kind of becomes like a psychological thing. Like, it shouldn't be, let's say that because something doesn't work at the piano that you would think less of yourself or something. It shouldn't be that way, but a lot of times it does end up being that way, and people don't have
Absolutely.
answers, right? And they don't have answers until they think, okay, so then I'm the problem. I must be the wrong thing in this equation. It's my fault. And it's really, really, really nice to show somebody that no, it's not that. It really is not that. And I say that personally because that's, I think, a lot how I felt not having those answers. I just felt like, okay, well, I'm not capable. You know, Edna also says a lot, like, you get the right movement here, the right rotation, the right shape, and suddenly you're talented, or suddenly you're a virtuoso. Because, and it's funny, yeah, because it's we make it seem this big thing of like, okay, well, and there's very talented young people who have done amazing things, but if we just have the answers, we'll realize that we're not too far off.
Well said, Ricky. And I just love your story in that you were interested in psychology, and I can clearly sense that you developed along the way a real clear sense of empathy and a real clear sense of what other people feel. And that's such a key aspect of being a great teacher. And I can just see an amazing future for yourself as you explore teacher certification and all of these different aspects. How far along are you in the process of teacher certification, and what is that process like?
Yeah, so basically a large part of that is not only teaching students, but bringing those students to these legendary teachers and getting feedback and just getting some pointers and figuring out how, because this is the thing that's so amazing, is you can know the information to all of these problems, and you can know how, especially how it might have worked for you to think about it. But I really think to be a great teacher, on the level of Edna and Robert Durso, Mary Moran, I think you really have to become kind of a wordsmith, or kind of just this like figure out how to explain things for somebody and how to say the right thing, and how to also, you have to be a sleuth. You have to figure out, okay, what are they saying, but what is actually, what they might be saying, something that for me, that might be a different problem than they think, but because they said it this way, or this certain way, that actually it leads me to this solution. It's a very it's a very interesting work to figure out how to teach. So I think it's really that kind of refining the way that I explain things, and refining the way that I teach something, and I find problems, and yeah, that basically just takes a lot of feedback from these great teachers, and it's great that I can bring students to them and that they can give that feedback.
It's a constant learning that's occurring within the Golandsky Institute for sure, and it's a wonderfully supportive community. Has that been your experience, where if you have a question about your teaching or your playing, they're always there to answer your questions?
Yeah, I it's really amazing. Like, well, I mean, even just Edna, will never hesitate, of course, to help with any teaching questions. But among the people that might be like around the same journey that I'm in, for example, Matthew Camastro, and there's also Hugo, people, who are, of course, I think they've both been certified. They have a level of certification, but they're also both on this journey, and so it's really nice going back and forth with them and figuring out, like, okay, let's, how can we hone the way we explain certain things, and how, how do you explain this, or have you had this problem before, and what do you usually do? It's amazing. Like, it really is supportive. It's like, yeah, we're all in this together, really. We're all trying to get to the same place.
What would you say to somebody who might be reticent about the Taubman approach? Maybe they've heard that it's about certain aspects of rotation or relaxation, or just, sort of phrases that are out there that sort of, quote unquote, describe what's happening with the Taubman approach. What would you say to somebody who is reticent about exploring the Taubman approach?
I mean, I don't blame them, because I think it's important also to be, to think critically and be suspicious about things, and try to make sure that what you're getting into is something that's actually going to help you, right? But I really feel strongly that the things I've learned about the Taubman approach have showed me that it's, and of course, when I think about this, I think how amazing Dorothy Taubman was herself to even write this all down and understand this. But it's that all of these concepts and these movements are really just they're a reflection of our lives. I mean, right? Like, when professional runners go to run, they don't think about, okay, let me relax my body, because then they wouldn't be able to run, right? They wouldn't be able to stand up. And they also don't think, okay, let me use my tension or whatever. They just run. They find that equilibrium, really. And like, for me, even, that's been amazing. One of the biggest things to discover is, like, it really is always about that equilibrium. It's always about that balance, and finding, a lot of times, and I'm included, but I'll have students that they'll realize, okay, they were doing this thing, they were doing too much of this one thing. And in response, they go the complete opposite way, and they do the exact opposite to the extreme. And it's normal, right? I mean, we want to just, like, we say, okay, oh, that was a terrible thing to do. So now let me completely go the other way, because, I don't want any possible, yeah, I just don't want to do that thing, whatever that thing is. But um, yeah, I think when you look at just the daily life, and you look at the things that we do, and the way we move efficiently, something that Sophie Till, I've heard her say recently, I went to go attend her summer symposium, which was amazing. And because my girlfriend actually is a violinist and is also doing her pedagogy certificate, so she's joining the Taubman Club. But
Wow, that's so cool.
yeah,
Wow, what a thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And no, that was an amazing thing. That was an amazing seminar and symposium. But one of the things that she says that I also still remember is like, look at how well we open the fridge and look at how well we turn the faucet on. Look how well we do turn the doorknob. We're virtuosos at that. We're amazing at that. Like, yeah, it's true. Like, these are activities that we don't think too much about, but we do them very well and we do them very efficiently. We don't think twice, right? And I would say, yeah, when you realize that, I really think the instrument is the same way, that we want to approach it in such a way that we do those activities, which is like very easy and very, efficient and balanced and not too much in either way. I think then you realize that this Taubman approach is not okay, like, because you mentioned like somebody thinking about getting into it and maybe they're hesitant. Like, I think it's very comforting to know that it's not this like, okay, now I have to impose this technique on my body, and now I have to like do this thing, like, download this whatever technique that somebody has come up with. It's really, okay, now let me be as natural as I am in daily life at my instrument, at the piano. That I think is a very different way of framing it. And I think that, like, if somebody would have told that to me earlier on, I think I also would have been like, okay, that doesn't sound so bad.
Well said, Ricky. Where can folks find out about your career, about your teaching? We'll include all of these wonderful links in the show notes, of course, but where can they be in contact with you?
Or yeah, I have a chamber group right now that we're doing a lot of concerts together in the New York City area, and we go by alegriaensemble.com, so you could find that there. And of course, we have an Instagram as well, Facebook. Um, and then for me, it's just Ricky Moreira, pianist.com. So yeah, and you can get in contact with me there for teaching, or if you're in the New York City area, especially Queens, we do a lot of concerts in Queens, then Allegria Ensemble, yeah, you'll find us there doing all types of great performances. So yeah, thank you so much.
Well, that's so wonderful. And we'll include, dear listener, all of these links of Ricky's wonderful work in the show notes, and you can check him out there and be in touch with Ricky. Ricky, thank you so much for just joining us today on Inside the Taubman Approach, and I can't wait to have you on again very soon.
Thank you so much, Benjamin.